Welcome back. I'm talking with our guest, Stephanie Decker here. She is an RN and certified diabetes educator with Hoag and with the Mary and Dick Allen Diabetes Center. But we were just chatting. She's from New Hampshire. She's been out here for a year, missing the snow.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, and I was commenting that, you know, our lows, 49, 50, those are probably warm to her. Those are your high temperatures.
I'm still wearing sandals.
Yeah.
It's not cold yet.
This is it. This is what it gets for us. So, been here for about a year.
Yes, indeed.
All right. So obviously we're talking about diabetes, and here's the first thing I would like to ask. And what is the difference between, I used to hear type A, type B, type 1, type 2, and I've always understood one of them is more or less you can be kind of born with it, or it's hereditary, where the other one is often due to your lifestyle. Am I right, or?
You've got some idea.
Okay.
You've got some of the correct ideas. So the primary, the most populous type of diabetes is type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
And about 90% of people who have diabetes have type 2. It used to be called adult onset diabetes.
Okay.
But now we actually have children, 5, 7, 11, teenagers, developing type 2 diabetes because of the obesity and inactivity epidemic.
Right.
So to your point though, type 2 diabetes, there's a little bit of a genetic connection. So often somebody knows somebody else in the family that has diabetes. It could be a grandparent, a parent, an uncle. The other type of diabetes you were talking about is type 1 diabetes, which used to be called juvenile diabetes. We don't call it juvenile diabetes anymore because you could be 58 years old, you could be 68 years old and get type 1 diabetes.
Okay.
The main difference between both of those types of diabetes, with type 1, that person does not make any insulin at all, and at the beginning of their diagnosis, they've got to be started on insulin, and they have to be maintained on insulin for their entire life.
Okay.
Type 2 diabetes, you might be started on insulin at the beginning of your diagnosis if your sugars are very high, but you might be able to come off of insulin in a couple of months, go on to orals, and then possibly go back onto insulin years down the road again. But that person with type 1 has got to take insulin every day of their life, or they actually can die and go into diabetic ketoacidosis. So that's the primary difference.
Yeah, the reason I asked that is I remember years and years ago when I was growing up in the 1960s, I remember there was a girl in my class, who was probably like the 5th grade, who had diabetes. And then I also had other friends, and the older brother had diabetes. Well, that was long before you heard about the lifestyle, what I referred to because of your diet and all.
Exactly.
So that's why I always, kind of wondered, were they born with it that way?
Right.
Yeah.
Interestingly, most people are not born with diabetes, for that type 1 diabetes. It's actually a rare genetic gene.
Okay.
So typically, before 6 months, it's very unusual to develop type 1 diabetes.
So let's go back to just getting checked for it. And as you put down here, how often should people with diabetes or pre-diabetes have their A1C check? So what does that mean?
So the A1C is a special blood test. It's a tube of blood. You don't have to be fasting for it.
Oh, okay.
This particular test is actually able to check your blood sugar average 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, over a 3-month period. So it's from the day you had the test, 3 months back. We make red blood cells every 3 months. And what happens for everybody, we all have an A1C level. You have an A1C level, I have an A1C level. Red blood cells attach to these, glucose attaches to our red blood cells. And we make new red blood cells every 3 months. So that's why this is a 3-month blood sugar check. For somebody who has prediabetes, now what prediabetes means is your blood sugars are above normal. And typically the fasting numbers between 100 and 125. And the 2 hour, if you were to check your sugar 2 hours after a meal, the blood sugar would be between 140 and 199. That's prediabetes. Your A1C level would be 5.7 to 6.4.
Okay.
So for prediabetes, the American Diabetes Association recommends having that checked every 6 months. Your primary care doctor may order that check more often with prediabetes, but in general, the minimum should be every 6 months. For somebody with diabetes, it should be done every 3 months.
Okay.
Unless your A1C has been at goal. For most people, that's going to be less than 7. If it's been at goal 2 times, then the American Diabetes Association says every 6 months is okay.
All right, so, and this is what you're talking about if somebody has type 2 diabetes, and so they should be checked more often. Along with those blood tests, when someone goes in for their, people who are relatively healthy, they just have their annual checkup at this point, especially if they're a little bit on the younger side. Often they run the blood tests, your cholesterol and all that kind of stuff. Are they checking?
They are
not. Is there any indicator where they go, wait a
No.
second here, we should do?
So my recommendation would be, if you have a family history of diabetes, if you know anybody in the family, you want to ask your doctor to check that A1C yearly when they do all of the other cholesterol electrolytes. That would be my recommendation for sure. Because the problem with diabetes is it's a totally silent disease. You can have a sugar that's 200, you are not going to feel differently. So I just had a gentleman yesterday in the hospital. His A1C was 11.2. Normal is 5.5.
Wow.
He came into the hospital for something else and was newly diagnosed with diabetes. He had no idea that his A1C was very high. So it's a silent disease.
So that's something to consider. I thought when they run your normal blood test, that's part of it. They look at all that.
No.
I guess not. So as far as once you get diagnosed, then do they right away put you on a managed program? Does it depend? Are you going to have to take insulin every day? Are you going to have one of those little pumps, or it just totally depends?
So it depends on the person. I think the main thing if you're newly diagnosed, the most important thing is to get educated about diabetes. You know yourself probably, looking online on the web, there are a lot of myths, there's a lot of misinformation. My recommendation is you've got to get diabetes education. Medicare actually pays for 10 hours in the first year. If you do not use those 10 hours in the first year, you lose them.
10 hours of education.
So at Hoag, we actually have a diabetes program that takes you through a series of 4 to 5 different classes that talks about eating healthy, learning about what foods turn 100% to sugar once you eat them, learning about the lifestyle, learning about what your doctor should be doing for you. One of the diabetes doctors I used to work with moons ago said, a person with diabetes should always know more than their doctor about diabetes.
Interesting.
You are your own advocate, and you need to be able to say to your doctor, I'm due for my A1C, it's been 3 months. Sometimes they forget. So being your own advocate, but education, medication, the American Diabetes Association does recommend everybody at diagnosis is started on a medication called metformin, also called glucophage. Now back in the day, we used to do diet and exercise only for 3 to 6 months. What we found through research, people didn't make changes. And what happened was people had high sugars for 3 to 6 months and nothing was done.
Okay.
So now the new treatment is you immediately start on glucophage, also called metformin, unless there's a contraindication. So you get some medication in to start to work on those blood sugars as you start to work and learn through education about the lifestyle piece.
Okay, so the education part,
Key.
important, and learn about the foods that,
And learn about what
Yeah.
your medication is. Learn about what you need to teach to your family, because diabetes is a family disease. You can't have diabetes yourself, cook one meal, and have everybody else eating potato chips and French fries.
yeah,
It's a family disease, but it's also old-fashioned healthy eating and daily activity, which is what we're all supposed to be doing.
It'd be interesting to find out all the foods that turn right into sugar.
I'll name a couple of them.
A donut? Does a donut do that?
100%.
Okay, all right.
There's 3 main food categories that turn to sugar. Milk products, except for cheese, we put that in the protein category, but milk, which many people are surprised at, turns to sugar 100%. Yogurt would be in that same category, and of course ice cream.
Right.
Any fruit turns to sugar. Believe it or not, there are people that say, what? Fruit turns to sugar? Fruit turns to sugar 100%. And then what we call the starch category. This is what we typically know as breads, fruit, starches, potatoes, cereal, rice, those kinds of foods turn 100% to sugar.
Wow.
So what that means with diabetes is it really means just eating healthy portions.
Okay.
But again, that's what we're all supposed to be
the
doing.
fruit one I think is a hard one, because quite often when you hear of other diets out there, Mediterranean diets and all that, I mean, fresh fruits are a huge part of it.
And you definitely can have fruit. But just as an example, a normal apple for anybody is the size of a tennis ball.
Yeah.
You cannot even buy an apple this size.
Right.
If you shop at Costco or anywhere else, it's a double apple this size.
Interesting. One other question that I want to ask, and I don't know if this is a myth or not, but sometimes you hear ads on the radio and all this about diabetes, this and that, and I can get you off diabetes in 10 days, in 2 months, you'll never have to worry about it again. I reverse this person's diabetes. They don't have to worry about their eyesight or anything else anymore. Can type 2 diabetes get to the point through medication, diet, exercise, where it gets totally eliminated from the person? In other words, you're like, at this point in your life, if you maintain this lifestyle, you're golden.
Ken, I really appreciate that question, and I think that's probably one of the most important questions that I've been asked in a long time. There are several companies that happen to be in our area, up to LA and back, that for several $1,000s, we will get rid of your diabetes. Through vitamins, through intense exercise, and through food restriction. It is a gimmick. Now let me say it works initially because you're food deprived. And you're on some extremely over-the-top exercise program. The vitamins, number one, there's no proof to vitamins or certain herbal supplements helping the blood sugar 110%. There are no studies. They are finally doing studies. We don't have that data yet. Those extreme programs may last for a month or 2, but they are not sustainable. And I have met people that have been on those programs. Financially, it's not sustainable, and physically, it's not sustainable. It's not normal. Remember, for diabetes, it's old-fashioned, healthy eating, healthy, moderate activity. And don't waste your money. It's truly a gimmick. It is truly a gimmick.
Good information. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I really like having you folks on from Hoag. The website is hoag.org/diabetes, and the number's on the screen, 949-764-8065. Stephanie, hope to have you back again.
My pleasure.
Thank
Happy
you very
holidays.
much. Happy holidays to you.
Thank you.
Can I have a donut now? Or?
Yes.